Welcome to the Driven to Succeed Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Olson, and today I have a special guest from the insurance shop, Laura Sauer. Laura, thank you for
Hi.
coming on.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes. This is other podcasts, we've had a couple of other agents on, but I've never actually invited an insurance agent on. So you are the first insurance agent I've actually invited on.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for having us. I'm excited to
Yeah.
be here.
Well, and part of it is because what I love about you guys, you've been so fast. Like if I need something, and a lot of times it's last minute too,
hmm
because we're struggling to get insurance or something, and we get or we need a policy that's like, hey, we got a DTI issue,
Or the
and
premium comes back really high.
yes,
Yeah.
so today I kind of wanted to get into that and just let people know because I mean we were in a long time, policies are 12, 14, $1,600 for, like a $300,000 home even,
hmm
right? Have you seen those rates lately?
No, unfortunately, rates are just going up like
Right.
everything else in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are some, and there's a lot of things that go into premium. So it takes in a soft hit of your credit score. It takes in, actually, a big rating factor is the age of the roof. So if it's a newer roof, then you have the better chance of having a lower premium, newer builds.
Right.
But yeah, so
Yeah, so I mean it's quite interesting because even I last year switched everything over to you guys.
yeah,
Right? Because I was like, whoa, wait a second. Badger came back and said your policy is like over double what it
I
was the year
remember
before.
that. Yep.
And I said, hey, can you guys give me some help, right? And you did, right? So I mean, we did combine all my policies together and save a little bit of money.
Yep.
But it's still, I mean, Badger was like one of them that was literally, we don't want to be in Minnesota anymore.
Yeah, they actually left the state. Well, I think they're starting to leave the state, but
Yeah, they are.
their AM Best rating is starting to go down a little bit.
Right,
So it
right.
was good we got you out of there.
Yes,
You didn't want to
exactly.
stay.
Exactly. But let's talk about that. Why is that? I mean, is there, is it just a serious uptick in like claims in Minnesota from like hail
Yeah.
particularly or what?
Yeah, I would say that that's definitely part of it. Kind of the biggest thing is that the cost of material and labor has gone up.
Mm-hmm.
Since COVID, the cost of material has gone down a little bit,
Right.
but the labor costs are still at an all-time high.
Right.
And then that going into or adding in with all of the storms that we've had lately, just the higher cost of claims, the higher amount of claims that are actually being submitted to the companies and being paid out.
Right.
So companies are paying more in claims than they're taking in premium. So
Yeah.
they're having to really pivot and figure out what their long-term goals are and how they're going to stay solvent. So
Right.
some companies have stopped writing business for a while. Some are leaving Minnesota. Some
Right.
have just increased rates. So
Right.
yeah.
And this is why I brought you on because I wanted to really talk to our followers and viewers that, like if you see your policies going up, this is why, and because I was pretty shocked, but
Yeah.
it makes sense. So like, well, like everything else, inflation really, specifically with goods, right, and
hmm
materials, right? Um, and it doesn't help when you have all these uh fires for like wood, right?
Yep.
Canadian fires last year, I can only imagine. It's so, we're not going to see these come down. So now we want to, just be able to navigate it, right?
Yeah.
Like what do you see are the best ways to get a lower premium? Like, obviously, um, we talked about this earlier. It's like claims.
hmm
One of the things, like, don't have small claims.
Yep.
Like,
Don't
don't,
file the little claims.
right?
Don't file the little claims.
Right. Because you were mentioning someone that came to you guys and she couldn't get her insurance company was dropping her
Yep.
just over a couple of small claims in a short period of
Yep.
time. Right.
Yep, she was a new homeowner. She filed 3 claims in the first 2 years, all of them under $2,000 that were paid out. I mean, her deductible was 1,000, so she couldn't have gotten much more than 1,000 on
Right.
each of
Right.
them.
Right.
So she was being dropped by her carrier, and luckily, since we have over 30 different carriers that we work with, we were able to find a solution.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Well, that's crazy. I mean, it's like, okay, and you think, okay, I got insurance, so it makes sense to do it.
yeah.
That's where I would assume you guys are like, well, hey, let's not jeopardize your policy because
Exactly.
you're going to spend much more. If you're only getting a couple $1,000 and your $1,000 deductible, you're only getting 1,000. But now, next time our policy re-ups, it's going to go up, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be paying more and more anyway, right?
Yep.
So,
You got it. So
um,
it's for the sudden and catastrophic. I mean, it's
yeah,
for, major hailstorms, fires. So yeah.
right. Now, speaking of that, so like a lot of people are like, oh, well, we want the like the best policy, or we want, what would you say when like getting full replacement versus like say age of roof? Like say you got a roof that's like 10 years old,
Hmm.
right? Is that one when people are, can you get a full replacement on that for extra cost, or how does that work? Like exactly?
So it's going to be slightly different with every single company.
Sure.
But up until a few years ago, most carriers were insuring your whole home at full replacement cost, which means that if you filed a claim, then they would just pay for the labor cost, they would pay for the material cost, and all you would be out was your deductible.
Hmm.
In the past few years, there's just too many people have been using their insurance policy as a maintenance plan.
Okay.
So, and I've heard people say it. Some family members have done it.
Right. Right.
But their roof is 20, 25, 30 years old, and they are just praying that a hailstorm comes through so that they
Right.
can file a claim and get a new roof, which has
Yeah.
happened.
Right.
However, those roofs need to be replaced anyways.
Mhm.
So companies are changing the way that they're covering it. And if a roof is over 15 years old, most carriers now will only cover it actual cash value basis,
Right.
which means that they'll just cover the depreciated value of the materials.
That's
So,
exactly what happened to me last year,
yep,
right? So of course you get the door knockers. Hey, you had a hailstorm, and they got the apps on their phone. Like you guys on this date, July or May of 2020, we had this happen, and you had quarter-inch hail to half-inch hail in your area. So
yep.
we can get you covered, like all this stuff, right? So okay, yeah, and then of course,
Insurance will pay for it.
yes.
We'll figure it out to wait for you not even to pay your deductible.
All of it, right? You hear everything, and it's nonstop. I
I
get
know
the
those
phone,
guys.
yeah, you get the phone calls, you get um, the door knockers, and I had one just the other day, and I'm like, "Dude, it's already been taken care of," and like he was relentless. I go, "Who did it?" He's asking me. I'm like, "Well, it doesn't matter. It's taken care of." Like, like, was it a contract, or was it like what? I'm like, dude, it's taken care of. How do you not? Like, you go to the next
That's
house,
funny.
right? So obviously it is what it is, but um, so do you see, is there any specific things that a person can do when getting like home insurance, right?
Yeah.
That that would help them, or is there any pitfalls or anything that you have?
Yeah, so we already talked
Tidbits,
about just being careful about the claims that you're filing.
right?
But I would also say definitely look at quoting your home and your auto to bundle them together. We're an independent agency, so we have over 30 carriers, but I only have 5 options for somebody if they only want a home quote.
Yeah,
So
right,
carriers want the home and auto together.
right.
So one of the biggest things that I tell people if they are looking to buy a home or new home insurance, look at your auto policy first and make sure you have good liability limits.
Yeah,
So the state minimum isn't going to cut it because you're not going to get good rates when you shop your policies again. You want to make sure that you have at least 100, 300, 100 for your liability limits. And if you don't know what that is, ask your agent or just make
that's
sure
why
that
you're here,
you have it
right?
up. Yep, exactly.
Because there's the state minimums are like 30, 30, and like,
Yeah, it's
it's
30, 60, 10,
30, 60,
which
10.
means that when you're driving, you only have $30,000 in bodily injury
Right,
to pay for the other person if you were in an accident.
right.
And you only have
Pay
60,000 to
for
pay
your,
for the entire accident. So
okay.
if you hit a minivan with a mom and 2 kids, that
Yeah,
$60,000 is going to go pretty fast.
right.
So,
And then what's the 10?
and then the 10 is property damage.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can get a car for under 10 grand. Pretty sure you can't,
No.
unless it's maybe a 2002 Corolla, but
Right.
that might even be pushing it.
Right. It's crazy what car prices did. But I'm glad we got a chance, because I think most people like don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like when I was in the car industry, they know, we didn't care because we just had to get their insurance card, and make sure that when we're financing a car, they were getting insurance and this is the carrier,
Yep.
right? But everybody's like, well, what's the cheapest, and like they want to go the cheap route. So you don't want to do that necessarily,
It's
do
a
you?
fine balance, just
Right?
like everything else. I don't know that you have to pay the most expensive premiums to have the best policy, but you also don't want to just focus on the lowest
So,
premium because
right,
you're probably not getting the right coverage.
right.
So it's just super important that people are talking to their agents, especially now, kind of like we talked about. There's a lot of disruption in the insurance business. Companies are changing policies, rates are changing, companies are leaving. So today, more than ever, make sure that you understand your policy. And if you don't, talk to your agent.
Ask for details.
Yes,
At
yes.
least we're not in Florida, right? So
Oh my
Florida,
goodness.
I can't even imagine what the policies are like. Who's even left down there? Because I think there's companies went insolvent down there, didn't they?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, because I mean, just all that the hurricane. What was the last one that was like the Keys that came through the Keys?
Oh, I
Anyway,
know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of the
after
hurricane.
that was the big one because it was in the middle of COVID,
Yep.
and like wiped out because of Cape Coral or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway,
I'm glad we're
regardless,
in Minnesota.
yeah, so we don't have to worry about that, right? Just the hail damage. Because my first home, I built a home in 2006, and literally like 3 days prior to closing, there was a hailstorm. So the builder replaced some shingles and
Okay.
replaced some siding and didn't replace all of it. And then a month later, after closing, we got a huge hailstorm.
Oh
And there's,
no.
and it's the vinyl siding, so there's holes all
Oh
over the
yeah.
house, and then
Mm-hmm.
complete new roof. So I get that fixed. And then inside of a year, so I think that was at the end of yeah, it was at the end of summer is like the last hailstorm of the year. And then we got a huge hailstorm at the beginning of the next year. So inside of 12 months, I had two 20 like I think one claim was 24,000. The other one was like
Shoot.
26 because it was like the vinyl side, like both, like, and that was I was whatever, got a new roof and whatnot, but
Oh my gosh. Now that's bad luck. That usually doesn't happen.
right. He did two inside. Well, it was technically three. I just didn't own it the first time, right?
Yeah,
And the builder had to eat it, or I'm sure like whatever, but it is what it is. So it
that's
was a brand
crazy.
new home. But anyway, um, as the insurance industry changes now, like, do you see anything on the horizon that is going to be a big impact? Or do you like what are you warning anybody? Or are you telling people to do anything different today?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that I'm hopeful that in 2024 there's probably going to be some more changes, but I think in the summer or the fall of 2024 things are going to level out a little bit more. We're still seeing a lot of rate come across for Q1 of 2024 with a lot of companies. So
All right,
I would say expect one more big rate hike in your policies this year, and then hopefully it'll level off, kind of like I was saying.
good.
But yeah, there's just lots of different changes. So we try to stay ahead of everything and make sure
Mhm.
that we understand the companies that we're working with and the coverage that people have. Because the stinkiest thing is if somebody were to call in thinking something was covered and not have it be covered. So
Right,
luckily, we actually don't run into that very often.
sure.
And
How about insuring valuables? Like getting into like if somebody has lots of jewelry or
oh, yeah.
heirlooms or what do you suggest when it comes to doing that? Like, is there a process for people to do that? Like, do you need an adjuster to look at it, or you just say, hey, like,
No,
what do you
super
think it
easy.
is? 50 grand additional coverage or
Yep. Yeah, so we're talking like wedding rings, gun collections, fine arts,
gun
things like that.
collections?
Yep. So yeah, we can actually add all of that onto your homeowner's policy, and all of those would be covered at a $0 deductible. Pretty much all you need is the appraisal, a photo, or a receipt. Well, the appraisal and the or the receipt, and then a photo as well. So
Okay, that's
that
what
way
I
you
was
can just kind of see the
that's what
value.
I was gonna
You can't
say.
just insure a $50,000 ring, say you have it.
So if you have a okay, let's go into this. If you have a gun collection, but like I don't have the receipts for all of my guns,
Sure.
right? What is the best way to document that? Should you like document like so I have a gun safe, right? So just like take pictures of the gun safe and or whatever, it's rated for what 2 hours or 90 minutes or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but let's just say it's a bad fire, right?
Yep.
Or, whatever, and they do get destroyed. So you would need, you know, like you basically need to have it itemized though, right? Like how does that work?
So within each homeowner's policy, there's going to be a specific limit for a gun collection, just like there would be a specific limit for tools or jewelry,
Okay.
and all of that is blanket coverage.
Okay.
So if anything were to happen, then like a fire or a
Yeah.
theft or something like that, then you would pay your homeowner's deductible.
Yeah.
But a better way to do it, if you have really, really nice jewelry and really, really nice gun collection, you can actually itemize those on your homeowner's policy.
Okay.
And that's when you would need the receipts or an appraisal.
Hmm.
So since you don't have receipts, I don't know if there's a way that you could get an appraisal on your guns. If they're thousands of dollars for one or something, you might want to look into that.
Right.
Otherwise, we should talk after this and talk about how much you
Right.
have in your gun
Maybe I
collection to
should
make
get that
sure
in there, right?
that
Well,
we
I
have enough
got two
coverage for
different
you.
places where my guns are. So, dad's house and my house, right?
But I think that's a really
Um,
good idea, though. If you don't have them scheduled out and you do have a lot of guns, take a picture of them.
all right.
That way, if anything
You
did
got some
happen,
kind of proof to be like, here's your,
right,
because that's the biggest thing is when people, one of the biggest knocks on the insurance industry is like, I didn't get value for it,
right.
right? I like, oh, they way undervalued me for something, right? So, it is up to the homeowner, the person, right, the individual to document it all properly, right?
Right. Yeah.
I would hope.
I mean,
Because you're like, oh, I had this gun, this gun, this gun, and like, well, you had like $5,000 insurance, but you're saying it's 10. You're not gonna get nothing more than five, right?
right.
Yeah, you're just simply so you do want to make sure you just have the adequate coverage.
Yeah. Well, because I think the hardest thing too, if it was a theft or a fire, then there's a lot of personal property that was damaged.
Hmm.
So I don't know about you, but I don't know everything that I have in my
No,
house.
right.
So it would be really hard to go back and be like, okay, what kind of a TV did I have? What
Sure.
I mean, a gun collection is probably different and people
Right.
know all of that. But
Right. So,
I do tell people, I don't do it myself, but I do tell people that probably the best thing to do is just to take a picture of every room in their house,
all right.
and then they can put those pictures in a Ziploc baggie, put it in the back of their freezer. So if their house ever did burn down, then at least you would have that.
Or it's on their phone, right?
Or you don't, yeah.
So
Or
in the
we make
in
our
the
best
cloud,
guess.
right? Yes, yes. All right, on. So how about like flood insurance? So I have flood insurance on my house. But I got grandfathered into like I can't remember what it was. But flood insurance is through FEMA,
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
Like,
There are some companies that do private flood insurance,
okay,
but yeah, FEMA's the big one.
that's the big one,
Hmm.
right? And I did something where we had to get like an elevation certificate and something else in order to get reduced. Because the first quote I got was like $3,600 a year.
Because of the floodplain you were in.
Yes.
Mhm.
And granted, I talked to all my neighbors and they're like, this is never flooded, and the house was built in 1960, right?
Right.
The waters never came up over the shoreline, period.
Right.
Right. But I was like, $3,600, right?
Yeah,
So
flood insurance isn't super cheap.
yes, but I ended up, I can't remember. So the person before me had some kind of policy. It was like $600. So I ended up getting like almost grandfathered into that same policy.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how we did it, but it was really, I mean, it was saved me, $3,000.
Yeah.
It was like 500. I think it was $580. I think it's like 700 now, but it was $580 to begin with, and I was like,
Perfect.
huge, right? Do you know any more about like I don't even remember what the process was I did. I mean, I think I got an elevation certificate and I think they could go back to records showing that there was never any claims filed on it for flood, and I think that's how they did it. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I know what you're talking about.
Uh,
So flood insurance can be kind of tricky. And the funny thing is that people don't understand this, but anybody can buy a flood policy, but in Minnesota, don't buy it. You're never really going to need it. The only time you would need it is if your lender acquired it to close on the home or something. But yeah, there are different things that you can do, kind of like a little bit more creative if you have to get it and
Right.
the
Because I mean,
premium's
flood
coming out
insurance is
crazy.
literally from natural disaster. It's not from like you had a pipe leak and burst or anything
Right.
like that.
Yep.
Because
That's
your
covered on your
normal
home
home,
policy.
right? Your own
Yep.
normal homeowner insurance would cover that. Um, how about the blanket policies? Like, I have because I live on a lake, I have a $1 million policy just in case like somebody came over, and something happened on the water,
Yep.
right? Why am it's escaping me right now?
Umbrella.
Umbrella.
Yeah.
Yes.
It covers over everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
the umbrella policy. It actually worked out well because I covered my boat in the marina when I had that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
so
I remember that because you needed really high limits.
yes, I had to have a $1 million policy,
Yep.
but I, obviously got rid of that boat. So anyway,
Yep.
or got unfortunately and fortunately, I think it's better for my lifestyle not to be on the river every weekend. Better for my liver anyway, that's for sure.
I have heard the two best days of a boat owner's life is the day they get the boat and the day they say goodbye to the boat.
Yes.
Is that true?
I've always said that it's not. For me, I love the water, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, I moved to a lake. I wasn't planning on living, and I'm not on Lake Minnetonka, by the way, or anything special. It's a smaller lake, but it's a very affordable lake.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Still great.
it's still great,
I'd put a
but
boat in a pond.
right,
Not gonna lie. I'd
right,
be fine with
right,
it.
right. But the when I sold my big boat, that was a lot. I mean, I had it for 9 years, and there's a lot of memories on it, and a lot of good people. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, I don't think, without having that lifestyle, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because as what I do, a mortgage lender, or I own a tech company, like I literally half the people from my tech company are directly from out there. Like, how I even built the company. Like, I just went to people, and because there are a lot of business owners, all affluent people out there that you're networking with,
Right.
right? As long as
Highly
I mean,
relational.
yeah, I mean, is it, for what I did, it was subsidized. Like, I met so many people, did so many mortgages, refis, and like it just subsidized my fun out there. But
Yep.
I mean, for the normal person, it is the worst financial decision ever as owning a boat, right? The gas, the storage,
Yep.
the end of the
Fixing it every
year.
year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like clockwork, right? At the beginning of the year, oh, there's $1,000, right?
I'm still gonna get
Uh,
one someday though.
yeah, yeah. No, it is. I mean, it's the lifetime of memories that you do have, and especially with your family and
Yeah.
your friends and whatnot. And like most of my friends are still from the marina, right? Like most ones that I hang out with are like, and now it's nice because what's the other saying in owning a boat? Is
Isn't it like,
get on somebody else's boat.
oh,
You get on a friend's boat, right? So,
yep.
so once you have that, and they're like, "Hey, come on out, you can ride with us." But
That's the better way to do
that
it.
is the
Mhm.
better way to do it,
Have friends with
right?
cabins and boats.
Yeah.
I like it,
And then,
Brandon.
just leave, whether they have a bathroom or whatever, throw $100 bill in there, and that's easiest, cheapest expense you could ever do.
Yep.
Right. It was funny because when I bought mine, now we're going in a tangent about boats, but when I bought mine, uh,
Why not?
yeah, boating is life. And I bought my boat, and it was on Lake Superior, and I got the keys for it on the 4th of July. And it was like,
Fun.
oh, we're gonna stay out here, go to Madeline Island. There's fireworks, like, but the very first, so that was on the 4th of July. So we, went out, putted around. I got to learn how. I never drove a two engine boat, right? Uh, and now we're anchored out, and there's like hundreds, if not over 1,000, like sailboats and other boats out there from Madeline Island
Oh my
forever.
gosh, that sounds awesome.
And it was so fun. But then, next day, and I slept so well that night because the boat was rocking and, uh,
You slept on the boat all
oh yeah,
night? Oh
yes.
my goodness,
And,
that's awesome.
and I was like, oh, it's perfect. And I woke up and like, well, we're really rocking. And my girlfriend at the time, she's like, are we on the rocks? Like she was scared.
Oh
She's like, I'm like,
no.
oh, well, I didn't even think of that. I'm like, got the anchors down. We're all good, right? Well, fortunately, we didn't move anywhere, right? And like, thank God, like,
That would have been a
you could have been
bummer.
out in the middle of Lake Superior.
Yeah.
So, long story short, we took off, went back to Marino, showered up, and then we were like, okay, let's go to Devil's Island. I think it's called Devil's Island. Uh, it's about 18 miles out. And I'm used to driving smaller boats where you just like throttle down and you're going, right?
Sure.
Just wide open, V6 or whatever. And you're hauling, right? And so this one, I did two engines and I take it throttled down both engines and I'm running like 4,100, 4,200 RPMs going about 37 miles per hour. And I'm looking at the gas gauge and we started at 90% and I'm like, 70%. Okay. So I start playing with a dash.
Oh
And
no.
okay, there's two engines, right? So I'm like, and I was like 22,
Did you run out of gas?
20, 22 GPH, 22 gallons per hour. Oh shit. Times two, 44 gallons per, it's a 125 gallon tank, right? And like literally, uh,
No.
I'm like, oh, and I'm way back, right? I'm like, and we weren't even past Madeline Island yet. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's like we're gonna run out of gas before we even get there.
Yeah,
Well, you learn how to drive it.
sure.
You do not drive a big boat like that wide open unless you absolutely have to get there somewhere fast and you just not and you're willing to do it. But
I guess there's a learning curve
you
to
run
everything,
around about
right?
1,000 RPMs less, you run around 3,100 RPMs and you get like then it's like 9 miles per gallon, right? Or gallons per hour. So
It's a
it's
little better.
way
Yep.
more economical,
Yep.
right? But I was like 44. That was funny. GPH, gallons
That
per
is super
hour.
funny.
So anyway, I had to just tell that story here, um, but you guys insure. So let's back to insurance real quick before we wrap this up. So you insure everything, right? Boats, motorcycles, homes. You want to do the whole package, the umbrellas. Is there any other things that you can say that you do, or any odd things that you insure as well?
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, pretty much any of your personal property and casualty we can do. We also do a lot of business insurance. So, if business owners, we have solutions for them. And then we do life and health insurance too. So,
Awesome.
any insurance needs, we
All
can
right.
really kind of find something for you.
Well, fantastic.
But
Well,
yeah,
if anybody, as your policies go up and you want to shop it and you want to get a hold of Laura, we'll have her contact information below. Please like and subscribe. I want to thank you for coming on today, Laura. It's fun. I always just love having conversations, even if we get into a boat tangent.
yeah, totally. No, thank you so much. It was fun to be on.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.